Okay, moving on to slide number 5. So let's now listen to some musical examples to illustrate these different ranges of bass, tenor, alto, and soprano, these different vocal ranges. So first off, listen to Bohemian Rhapsody. This is a rendition by Pentatonix. It's a really fantastic vocal group. So specifically though, listen for the bass part, which we can really hear. We really hear it kind of throughout, but it's most obvious maybe at about the 27-second mark. So, and specifically pay attention to Avi. So Pentatonix is a group, and there's 5 people in the group, right? And Avi is one of them. He sings bass. So Avi is sitting in the lower right? They're all kind of sitting on a couch, and he's sitting on the lower right. He's singing bass. And we can especially notice him at about the 27-second mark. Then check out Mitch at about the 37-second mark. He's sitting kind of top middle, and he's singing tenor, right? He has kind of this a really beautiful high tenor voice. Okay, so then after you check that out, let's then listen to You Know I'm No Good by Amy Winehouse. So Amy Winehouse, this is a good example of alto range, right? She sings in her kind of alto register throughout. Okay? So check that out. And then check out I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. So I Will Always Love You is a song that demonstrates Whitney Houston's a lot of her range. She has a huge range, and the song kind of starts off more in the her alto register, but a little bit at about the 3-minute and 10-second mark, to be precise, she kind of shifts into her soprano register. So check out those examples for maybe a clearer illustration of these ideas of bass, tenor, alto, and soprano. All right, so after you check those out, then we'll move on to the next slide, number 6. Okay, so at this point, now we're going to talk about some a kind of instrument classification system, and we're going to talk about 4 families of instruments. So you should know these. These ideas will come up throughout the rest of this class. So first off, we're going to talk about 4 of them. We're going to talk about aerophones. We're going to talk about chordophones. We will talk about membranophones and idiophones. So there's 4. The first one, aerophones. So aerophones are instruments that produce sound by using air. Okay? So aerophones, flutes, horns, right? Any kind of like brass instrument like trumpet, trombone, tuba, French horn, those kinds of things. They all use air, therefore they're aerophones. Bagpipes, those use air, so therefore those are aerophones. What else? Whistles are going to be considered aerophones because they require air. All right, anything that uses air. Listen to, I have a clip here, or a link to a clip of a guy playing flutes, but he's playing kind of in a beatbox style. It's pretty cool. Check that out. It's an example of an aerophone. All right, so after you do that, then we'll move on to slide number 7. Okay, chordophones. So this is our second instrument family. So chordophones produce sound from a vibrating string stretched between 2 points. So, of course, the guitar is a good example of a chordophone, right? It has, well, this particular guitar has 7 strings, but a chordophone really only needs 1 string. So chordophones is 1 or more strings. And each string is stretched between 2 points. If we look at, here's 1 point, right? It's stretched from there all the way to here, right? So there's my other point. So 1 point, 2 points. And so that is a chordophone. Chordophones can be bowed, right? Like as in a violin or a cello or a viola or a bass. They can be plucked, as in a guitar or a banjo or a mandolin or a ukulele. Or they can be, the sound can be produced by striking the strings. Check out a couple of examples of this. Check out the first clip here where it says like a dulcimer. So this particular dulcimer is called a santur, which is an Iranian instrument. And this one we see a guy playing, he's striking the strings, right? And so therefore it has strings, and so it's a chordophone, but he's striking the strings, right? Still a chordophone because it has strings. Also check out the berimbau. The berimbau is a Brazilian instrument. It has only 1 string, but it's still a chordophone because it's 1 string stretched between 2 points. On this video, it starts off with a berimbau, with some berimbau playing, but then it kind of quickly goes into a larger ensemble context. So the first instrument we hear and see, though, is the berimbau. So check that out, and then we'll move on to our next slide, number 8. So now we'll talk about membranophones. So this is our third family of instruments. So the first one we talked about aerophones, and then we talked about chordophones. So now membranophones. So membranophones are drum-type instruments that are sounded from tightly stretched membranes. So in order to identify a membranophone, really just think, does this instrument have a tightly stretched membrane? If it does, then it's a membranophone. If it does not, then it's not a membranophone. So drums, all right? These are great examples of membranophones. Check out the video here. I'm sure you all know what drums are, but you could check out the video in any case to further illustrate this point. All right, so then after you do that, we'll move on to our final slide for this lecture, slide number 9. Now let's talk about our fourth family of instruments, idiophones. So idiophones produce sound from the substance itself. Some students get confused about idiophones. Here's a way to if you're confused about this, here's a way to help you identify idiophones. So, okay, so think about idiophones are not aerophones, chordophones, or membranophones. So if the instrument has neither, if the instrument does not require air to be blown through it, then it's not an aerophone. If it doesn't have a string, it's not a chordophone. If it doesn't have a tightly stretched membrane, then it's not a membranophone. In that case, it's probably an idiophone. If it doesn't have any of those 3 things, right, then it's probably an idiophone. So one good example are bells. So check out this video where it is labeled bells. This video is of a bell ensemble, and they're playing a version of Rollin' in the Deep by Adele. So check that out. Notice bells, they don't require air, they don't have any strings, and there's no tightly stretched membrane. Therefore, it's an idiophone, okay? Also, check out the mbira. Mbira, another example of an idiophone. The mbira is also sometimes called a kalimba, also sometimes called an African thumb piano. But those things don't matter. They're all considered an idiophone because there doesn't require air, there's no strings, and there's no tightly stretched membrane. All right, it's just kind of plucking these metal devices, and check out the video. You'll see what I'm talking about. And so that's an mbira. I mean, that's an idiophone. Many percussion instruments are idiophones. So just remember, though, if it has that tightly stretched membrane, then it's a membranophone, not an idiophone. Okay, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out. I would love to help you. Otherwise, that does it for this video lecture. See you next time.